What's up? It's your boy Carcinum here, and we're talking about the Crusher, Sergey Kovalev. Man, man. Sergey Kovalev's fall from grace has been an epic one, and yet, here we are. Now, Sergey Kovalev, due to the fact he's Russian, a lot of people don't really focus or follow what's been going on with his career. Only through the boxing terms has many of us been following everything that's been transpiring with him. Now, with that in mind, and to say this, Sergey Kovalev, throughout the history of his career, I first heard of Sergey Kovalev when Roman Karmazin, was boxing, and he was from Russia. He was former KGB. He was in a Russian prison. When he was fighting, Karmazin was fighting, Corey Spinks, did I hear a whispering about a fighter named Sergey Kovalev. And that was many years ago. And that was Karmazin Corey Spinks fight. And I bet on Karmazin too. Lost. Made in hell. Roman made in hell Karmazin. So anyway, that's when I first was aware of someone named Sergey Kovalev training and boxing, and he was young then, very young in the game. I don't even know if he was pro yet, and didn't get my attention until he killed someone in a ring, in the boxing ring. And what got my attention is normally when a fighter takes someone's life in a ring, they're not in there to try to take the person's life. But when he did it, the lack of empathy, we've seen this alter people's lives. You see, Ray Boom Boom Mancini never was the same. He never could really be ferocious in the ring again after that. He couldn't be Boom Boom after what happened to the Korean fighter and him losing his life. He just like, I couldn't do it. It was hard for him. He tried to box again after coming out of retirement, but he was never the same. So you see these type of events have different effect on people, and the Sergey Kovalev had a if he dies, he dies mentality. He really didn't care. And I had never seen that in a fighter. When that happened, then there were a lot of unreported events that was happening around Sergey Kovalev. An African-American sparring partner who he was friends with and hung out with all the time, they were buddy-buddy. There was never any problems. They were like the best of friends. They went everywhere. Never was disrespectful. And that's why I never thought Kovalev could even slightly be racist. But the whole time, when they spoke in Russian, his friends or coaches or whoever those people were in his camp, they would speak negatively and racially disparaging the black fighter, who was his friend, who was training him, sparring partnering with him and everything. They basically using the Russian term to call him a monkey or something of that nature. And this was after he was caught wearing the shirt. And then that's when they start promoting the friendship with him and the sparring partner, his friend, and his friend was like, he hired me for the camps, but those two never really hung out like outside. It's just work. They come in, they do what they do. He go his way, he go his way. But when they're in camp, that's when they see each other. But other than that, it's not like they call him on the phone or hang out with him. So he was letting that be known. But he's like, no, I think he meant it more as a joke to Stevenson, Adonis Stevenson, more than a race thing. I think he's just trying to humiliate him, and he's not caught up in culture. Well, I don't know. It's a lot of the things that's happened since then. Now, John David Jackson, who's black, former world champion, was his trainer, was his head trainer. Tried to get Kovalev to do the right things, but Kovalev was going to do what Kovalev wanted to do. And John David Jackson is wondering why the seconds are getting paid more than him. The seconds were getting paid more than him. He was paying John David Jackson basically crumbs to be his trainer. When the big money started rolling in, he's still giving them crumbs. So, that was that. So now, with that being the case, Sergey Kovalev was asked in an interview, I think, about John David Jackson. And he talked about John's, like, he didn't do anything and he don't deserve any money. And, like, in shortest of terms, he didn't want to be disrespectful, but he was being disrespectful. Then another Russian guy was like saying a Russian word that meant the N-word. Disparaging towards blacks, like, we're not paying that N-word. The N-word don't deserve this much and that much. So, another situation that went against Sergey Kovalev. These events became more frequent as time went on. They had another incident where Sergey Kovalev, after letting him go, wanted to find any reason he could, after losing to Andre Ward, to blame everyone in the world for it. And I remember, I think somebody even asked him about female boxing, and he was like, all women belong in the kitchen or something. And I don't know who did the interview. I don't want to say the wrong person, but one of the boxing outlets did the interview with Sergey Kovalev, and he was talking about women belong in the kitchen or something. So, forgive me, whoever did it or did the interview, I can't remember off the top of my head. But there was always an allowances for Sergey Kovalev. Allowance for him being disrespectful. Even when he went against Bernard Hopkins, he was still very disrespectful going against Bernard Hopkins. And his team. So it was looked at as promotion, but it might be something deep rooted. We just don't know. But what also happened that a lot of people didn't want to talk about was the fact that Sergey Kovalev has a history of being abusive. Now, this first case that came along that we then made notice was because a plea agreement was made to keep things quiet and get a settlement behind closed doors when this lady came out of nowhere, this Russian model, comes out and says, you know, he hit me, I need money, and I need it now. So naturally, when people hear that, they go, well, there it is. She needs money. She sued for $8 million. They didn't get it. All she ended up getting and receiving was what, about 3 installments? She's getting like 1.2 million or something. So with that being the case, it didn't take the rest of them long to figure out what the scenario was and what the issue was. The issue was Sergey Kovalev allegedly followed this woman after she, I guess, in his mind, promised to do some things, followed her back to her room, hit her hard enough to break her nose, dislodge a disc in her back, and then allegedly kicked her dog so hard that the dog was hurt. So he paid quietly, kept all this a secret, and took care of it behind closed doors. Now, on top of this, Kovalev had another incident before this, with I believe the mother of his child, when he allegedly grabbed her wrist, pulled her down, and then slapped her. This was reported in a Russian or Polish magazine overseas, that they had an event somewhere in Miami where nobody in Miami ever reported it, but it happened in the United States, in Miami, and they didn't want to have an incident reported where he could have trouble losing his visa. But I'm like, if Conor McGregor could come here and commit crimes, then hey, it's all good. Right? It's all right as long as you all white. Sad, buddy, but that's the state we're living in. Now, my thing is, let Sergey Kovalev been black. Would we be down this road right now? Would I be having this conversation with you right now? Would this even be an issue? Sergey Kovalev, his drinking, his vodka, his excessive drinking, has led to the downfall and the deterioration of his career and his abilities. Now he can't really take punches anymore. And every time he loses or gets knocked out, there's an excuse. He can't accept it. Because when he goes back home, people were looking at him as the crusher. Now they look at him in disgust and disappointment. He has to make up a lie in order to keep his lie and legacy going. So he was even going with the fact that the fight was fixed, even though he was knocked out in the fight with Canelo. So I don't know. It's a lot of incidents going on with Kovalev. It's a lot of issues and a lot of things going on with him, but I think his days are being a dominant fighter are behind him. I think he's become more acceptable, susceptible to being knocked out, and he's very aware of it. So he's becoming gun shy. And I think main events is just going to milk the cow until it's all over. They already know it's over, but they're going to milk the cow until it's over. So on that note, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have a blessed day. And don't forget to support the page by hitting up the Cash App. My name is Carcino on the Cash App. I do appreciate all the support you guys give me. And the Streamlab, if you want to donate to the Streamlab, all you got to do is click the button in the description box. We appreciate it. And I'm out.